Tonight, we continue our special reports as we stand up to cancer. The prospect of developing breast cancer can be daunting for anyone, but imagine receiving the diagnosis when you're just 16 years old. That's what happened to one North Texas woman, but she's used that battle to better her life and help others. Sixteen-year-old girls tend to be more concerned about their weekend plans than the state of their health. But Nikia Hammond's Blakely was thrust into a very adult world when, at the end of her sophomore year in high school, she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
I could not believe that it was happening to me, partially because I have no family history. None of my friends, obviously, ever had breast cancer.
And not only was it breast cancer, it was very rare and aggressive.
And they initially told me that I should consider having a total mastectomy of both breasts. But at 16, as you can imagine, that was just an inconceivable idea.
Nikia, let's start from the beginning, okay? Before we talk about where you are now and the platform that the Lord has given you, the opportunity that you have now to speak before a multitude of young people, women, all kinds of people about your situation, the things that you've gone through and where God has you now, I want you to take us back to Gary, Indiana. As a young teenager, growing up, PK, pastor's kid. Tell us a little bit about what that was like right before you got the diagnosis that literally changed your life.
I can even take it back to the very day that changed my life. I was getting ready for school. It was a morning like any other morning. I'm 16 years old, a sophomore in high school, in the shower, getting ready for school, when I felt a lump in my breast. Of course, I didn't think anything of it because I was young, didn't know if anybody with breast cancer. Obviously, no one in my school or any of my classmates had breast cancer.
Right.
But it was big enough of a lump that it disturbed me. So I went on throughout the day, and later on, I came home and told my mom, you know, Mom, I felt something strange. And she said, well, let's go to the doctor to get it checked out. Still not very alarmed. Just went as a formality more than anything. Went to the doctor. She was my family physician, had seen her for years. She also noticed the lump and said, Nick, I'm sure it's nothing. You're 16 years old.
Right.
Girls your age are just developing. You know, you're pretty lumpy, you know, for lack of a better word. I'm sure it's nothing. But by the end of that visit, I could tell she was toiling with herself as to whether or not to pursue it or not. And by the end of the visit, she said, but you know, I guess just to be on the safe side, as a routine measure, let's go ahead and schedule a biopsy. I had never had a sprained ankle or been in the hospital for any reason, so a surgery was scary for me, just the thought of surgery.
Yeah. Right.
But she said, she assured me it was just a formality and I had nothing to be concerned about. So I do come from a praying family. I'm a PK, long line of pastors, my grandfather, my father, all of my uncles, pastors. Wow. But that was certainly a time where I had to come to know Christ for myself and began to pray in a different way. We went into that surgery hopeful and still not very alarmed.
Right.
The results came back, and not only was it cancer, but it was a very rare and aggressive breast cancer, 16 years old. Now, if I can just put that into perspective, at 16 years old, I was already dealing with self-esteem issues.
Obviously.
Like any other
girl.
Young girl.
Yeah,
not feeling very pretty.
Right.
I've always been overweight. I just didn't have much self, you know, identity. And that literally made me feel like a monster. I just couldn't imagine, because the doctors at that time said, you know, we've got to treat this aggressively. We should probably remove both breasts.
At 16?
At 16. because you're so young, because the cancer is so aggressive, it's just a matter of time that it would return in a few years, and then a few years after, and a few years after. And why put yourself through that, you know, that trouble of years of reoccurrences? So they immediately recommended a double mastectomy at 16. I didn't even have a date to the prom, but they wanted to remove both breasts. I could not comprehend what was happening to me. And what it did instead was made me fall on my knees and have to get to know the God that I heard about.
Wow.
Literally.
Right.
Okay, now God, I've sung about you all my life. I've heard the stories. I've seen other people's testimonies, but at this moment, you know, it was a Smokey Norfolk moment. I need you now.
Right.
Literally millions of women are diagnosed with this disease. I don't know any that were diagnosed at 16. If you're real, I need you to show me now.
Right.
There was a day where I was at the house and I was in the bathroom, literally curdled around the toilet in the bathroom crying, because one thing I did try to do was keep the brave face. How do I move on from this?
Right.
And our ability to do so and find God in that moment will dictate the course of our future if we put that in God's hands.
Right. Nikia, for somebody that is watching this broadcast right now, and as you talked about, could be facing either a similar situation or something that is personally just as devastating to them, whether it's a myriad of things that you talked about. If you were to pray right now for that woman, for that child, or for that man that is sitting there and is listening to you, what would your prayer be?
I would pray that they would have the strength, that they could find the strength to see God beyond what they're going through, beyond what the circumstances may appear to be. There is a God who is still living and who is still able to bring them above and beyond what they're experiencing right now. So I would simply pray for the strength for them not to look at their circumstance as it currently is, but to see God as God. I believe in Genesis, in the first chapter, when he brought all things into existence, he simply spoke them.
Right.
And even when Jesus walking this earth and going on back to be with the Father, he told us greater works will we do. That means that if he was able to speak, we're also able to speak. And even greater things. There's greatness that we can accomplish, that we can see manifested with our eyes if we have the power to see God, believe it, and speak it into being. And I think I was able to tap into that at 16. I said, I want to live.
Right.
I want to use my life to help other people.
My mom has played such a pivotal role in through my experience because she was my rock. She showed me that even when you don't know what tomorrow holds, even when it's so painful, you just want to cry, it's okay to cry. But after you finish crying, keep going, keep walking. And that's exactly what she taught me how to do, and she was there every step of the way through my experience.
I think that the most important thing that I learned through that was just to be there to talk her through it and to let her know that, hey, you know, we're gonna beat this. We're gonna make it through this. This may seem tough right now, but we had such a support system, both naturally and spiritually, that it helped for us to be able to go through it.
Hallelujah! Come on, that's not just a song. That's a testimony. Hallelujah! Everything works together for the good of them that love the Lord. Hallelujah! And that are called according to his purpose. You may be seated. You may be seated. I had a plan. Oh, yes. But God had a purpose. We all have plans, don't we? We all have plans. We plan out our days. You know, I'm going to use my mom as an example. She's on Weight Watchers now. When I tell you this woman plans her entire day, for breakfast, I'm going to have 3 points. A banana, a toast, unbuttered with peanut butter, and an unscrambled egg on special occasions. We have birthday parties that, oh my God, Sister Kathy's party, if y'all were at her birthday party, you talking about the caterers, the decorators, the ball gowns, we make big productions out of things, don't we? We're planners. We plan things to a T. Women, we could go on the first date, meet a man, we done already planned the wedding. Listen, I'm serious. We go on our first date, and if there's a connection, if there's some chemistry, we plan, am I gonna hyphenate my last name? Am I gonna just take his? Our kids, we choose our careers, where we wanna work. We choose our neighborhoods, where we want our kids to go to school. We choose what degrees we're gonna have. Everything about our life, we plan it, don't we? We plan the thing. And there's nothing wrong with having plans. Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision, make it plain. We're encouraged as smart, thinking, logical human beings and souls to course out the map of our life and have some direction in life. However, how many of you know that while we may have our plan, God has a purpose? Because you are the called according to what? According to what? His purpose. His purpose. Somebody say his purpose. Had I sketched out my life, it would have looked a little bit like this. But that would have been for my purpose. To be happy, to be wealthy, to be popular, to be all those things. But my life is not about me. I'm not here today because of me. I'm here today in spite of me. I'm alive today because of his purpose. Y'all may get tired of hearing about my little breast cancer episode, but this is the reality. 16 years old, no one's going for mammograms. What made us catch that cancer at 16? Breast cancer, leukemia, other cancers that may have some side effect or produce some type of something. What made us catch it at 16? I wasn't supposed to go for a mammogram until 40. They said the cancer was so aggressive. It was aggressive cancer. I would not be here. I would not be here today, but for God's purpose. For his purpose. So every time I go through those depressions, and I have them. I have days of depression and said, Lord, what is up with this? I have to be reminded that my life is not my own. I'm not here for me. I'm not here to do all the things Nikia wants to do. At some point, I and every single one of you have to realize the only way for us to see God's face in peace in the end is that we submit our will to his, that we give up our plans, even if that means giving up people, if it means giving up ways, habits, family, traditions, if it means giving it up, forsaking it all. We are here for his purpose, and we have to come into alignment with his plan.